This video of the best PS5 games will show you everything that's great about Sony's latest console. Sony's console is home to many fantastic games, with good single-player experiences. And with some excellent PS5 exclusives arriving since its launch, the game library is only getting stronger. So stay until the end of this video, because you will definitely find a PS5 game for you to play. Alan Wake 2 is a sequel it's been worth waiting 13 years for. Remedy's latest game is gorgeous, ambitious, and really rather innovative, taking the studio's reputation for blending live action and gameplay to the next level. Our old pal Alan Wake himself is back, after spending 13 years trapped in the dark place, and now he's helped by Saga Anderson, an FBI agent heading to Bright Falls to investigate a series of murders. The two storylines intertwine beautifully, and it's an impressive game quite unlike any other. Uncharted: Legacy of Thieves takes the two PS4 Uncharted games, polishes them up for the PS5 with 4K visuals, optional performance modes, haptic feedback and adaptive triggers with the DualSense, and more. While it clearly wasn't as heavy a lift as The Last of Us Part 1's translation to PS5, these two action-adventure classics simply hold up incredibly well, even with just a few improvements. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End still delivers gut punches, massive set pieces, and grins and spades, giving Nathan Drake, Elena Fisher, and Victor Sullivan the send-off they so rightfully deserve. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, a generally underrated PS4 gem, also stands tall, telling a thrilling side story in India with fan favorites Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross. If anyone with a PS5 missed these two heavy hitters the first time around, this Uncharted series collection is a no-brainer. Elden Ring is one of those games where if you're in, you're in. This is the best game coming out of From Software since the original Dark Souls, taking its particular brand of gameplay to an open world for the first time. It refines, it evolves, and it tweaks the formula to make sure that suffering in its very specific masochistic style has never been this much fun. While it feels strange to not refer to the latest headline soccer game as FIFA anymore, it turns out it doesn't really matter. EA Sports FC 24 picks up where the Behemoth series stripped and takes the football action to new silky highs. Despite that lack of FIFA license, EA has set the new benchmark, again, for what a current-gen soccer sim can do, look like, and play like. It's a superb game for newcomers and veterans alike, and those who are long-term loyal fans will be impressed and happy with the amount of genuine improvements the game brings to the most popular modes. What really makes the game shine is the Frostbite engine-powered Hypermotion V. Building on previous iterations of the motion capture tech, the V stands for volumetric data and offers the most realistic motion ever, even better than that of FIFA 23. What results are player movements that are so close to their real-life counterparts, individual strands of hair dancing in the wind, and realistic ball interactions and shots, passes, and more. Throw in some excellent finesse styles and plays, and new passing mechanics, and the best sports game on PS5 really shows you why it's exactly that. One of the best action RPGs in years, Diablo 4 is beautiful chaos with excellent improvements on how it handles combat, gear, and loot systems, and other elements. Its open world is impressive too, proving that Blizzard has plenty more to show off when it comes to the core Diablo experience. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is securely a role-playing game with a stealth influence, instead of the other way around. It allows the player to enact both large-scale battles and quick assassinations while hidden within a crowd. The Vikings, too, introduce their own expression of stealth in their raids, where narrow longships sneak up to encampments to attack without warning. Eva has an assassin's blade, a gift given to her from Sigurd. Hers, though, is not hidden. She wears it atop her cloak, because she wants her foes to see their fates in her weapon. Valhalla's most intriguing story is one about faith, honor, and family, but it's buried inside this massive world stuffed with combat and side quests. That balance is not always ideal, but I'm glad, at least, that it forces me to spend more time seeking out interesting things in the game's world. Gran Turismo 7 restores the racing sim franchise to its former greatness, fixing the lack of content and slightly underwhelming visuals in both GT6 and GT Sport. GT7 gets back to what the charming racing sim does best, offering bags of content with sublime racing gameplay, all wrapped up in a wonderfully charming and inviting user experience that's remarkably Moorish. GT7 is also a stunning showcase of PS5 tech, making arguably the best use of the DualSense wireless controller's haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. You'll feel every bump in the road, every screech around a corner, and every gear change as you maneuver around GT7's litany of tracks. Pair this with lightning-quick load times and you end up with a beautifully seamless racing experience in GT7. You rarely wait longer than a few seconds to dive into, or retry, a racing activity. GT7 is a glorious return to form for the series and easily the best racing game to showcase the PS5's capabilities. Street Fighter V was a divisive part of the long-running fighting franchise, and clearly Capcom intended Street Fighter VI to be a reset. It appears to be mission accomplished, as the latest game is getting praise across the board for being an excellent entry for fighting game veterans as well as a great entry point for those who have had trouble penetrating the scene. A newly refined combo system also helps novices learn not just how to pull off complicated moves, but also the strategy behind when and why to do it. Perhaps the wildest revision is a new World Tour mode, which has you create a custom fighter with their own blend of moves that you learn from several masters' famous Street Fighter characters like Ken and Chun-Li. And the fighters themselves are a diverse set of strange and inventive new characters alongside classic faces like Blanka and Dhalsim. It all comes together to be the best Street Fighter package in years. Final Fantasy XVI manages to recapture the series' spirit of reinvention by switching to combo-heavy melees instead of turn-based combat. That, combined with a world that you'll be eager to explore and a powerful story with endearing characters, make Final Fantasy XVI one of the series' greats. A fast-paced action game with stylish combat is the perfect candidate for a PS5 upgrade. Enter Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, the definitive console version of Capcom's 2019 action game. DMC5 Special Edition is impressive from a technical perspective and offers 3 different graphics and performance settings that offer different combinations of improvements such as ray tracing, 4K resolution, or even gameplay at up to 120 frames per second. It also comes with the Virgil DLC, which lets you play through the game as Dante's twin brother. 2 new modes are included as well, Turbo and Legendary Dark Knight. Turbo speeds the game up, while Legendary Dark Knight adds more enemies to the fight. Overall, the technical improvements and new content make DMC5 Special Edition worth playing even if you already beat the original on PS4. It's one of the best action games in recent years and includes one of the deepest combo systems ever in the genre. Rebuilt using the studio's latest PS5 engine, the remake lets you relive or discover Joel and Ellie's journey with modernized mechanics, improved controls, and a complete overhaul of the game's graphics. If you've yet to experience the story of The Last of Us, you're in for a treat, and those revisiting the adventure get to experience it all over again with a version that makes the most of Sony's hardware. Hitman: World of Assassination is the complete package of IO Interactive's stunning stealth trilogy. Across 20 globetrotting locations, Agent 47 embarks on the biggest and most intricate missions of his career, from the catwalks of Paris, through the racetracks of Miami, to the pulsing rave halls of Berlin. That journey showcases the finest examples of IO's formula. Your targets can be dispatched with cold-blooded efficiency, or fall prey to Rube Goldberg-style series of events that results in a much more comical death, or if something backfires, a Wile E. Coyote-grade failure. Each mission is so packed with opportunities and creative methods of murder that not even 5 replays will reveal every secret. This truly is a treasure trove of trouble. World of Assassination, initially released as a 3-game trilogy, was great on PS4, but it's even better on PS5. The missions from the original 2 games have been upgraded and polished to a modern shine, ensuring this feels a coherent package. It also now includes Freelancer, a roguelike mode that pushes your stealth skills to their very limits. Regardless of the mode, though, you can kill a guy by making him slip on a banana peel, which is funny anywhere, but on PS5 it's also very pretty thanks to increased resolution, a steady 60 frames per second, and an overall smoother experience over the last-gen version. Deathloop may very well be the best PS5 console exclusive thus far, which is pretty ironic considering it was developed by Arcane Lion A Bethesda studio that is now owned by Microsoft. The exclusivity deal was struck before Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda, so PS5 users get to experience one of the best first-person shooters in a long time. Deathloop is set on Black Reef Island, a strange place where the party never stops and everyone wants to kill our protagonist, Colt. The island is stuck in a time loop, and the only way to break it is by hunting down and killing a list of targets. Colt retains his memories from each loop, but so do all of his targets. They know he's coming. Deathloop is an absolutely enthralling shooter that deftly weaves into systems into the loop in a coherent manner that gradually builds over time. It also tells a gripping tale and features some incredible acting. Death Stranding: Director's Cut is the definitive way to play one of the strangest games of the past few years. Where 2019's Death Stranding welcomed a dedicated audience and a good chunk of players that quickly bounced off, Director's Cut makes Hideo Kojima's independent debut more accessible without sacrificing its unique identity. Death Stranding: Director's Cut still asks Sam Porter Bridges to walk across a condensed version of the United States, precariously stacking packages on his back. But this time, Sam has more tools in the initial leg of his cross-country journey. Instead of spending the first 15 hours walking around with a rope as your only weapon, you can quickly get a gun that stuns enemies with lightning. And instead of winging it in your first combat scenario with a new piece of gear, the re-release of Death Stranding offers a substantial firing range for you to test your loadout. But for all of its fancy new toys, Death Stranding is still a game about doing the grunt work necessary to connect with others. Its script can be metaphorically clumsy, but it never stumbles in expressing those metaphors through the gameplay itself. Nobody has ever accused Hideo Kojima of subtlety, but it's Death Stranding, director's cut's smallest changes that make it so much easier to recommend. Mortal Kombat reigns as a king of the fighting game genre, and Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate only cements that position. Combining Mortal Kombat 11, Kombat Pack 1, the Aftermath expansion, and Kombat Pack 2, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate is the quintessential Mortal Kombat 11 experience. With 2 cinematic stories to play through, 37 fighters to get to grips with, and a bunch of new fatalities, stages, and brutalities to try out, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate offers hours of gruesome fun. What's more, on PS5, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate benefits from 4K dynamic resolution, enhanced visuals, and drastically improved loading times, compared to its PS4 counterpart, so you won't miss a second more of the action than you need to. This is the best fighting game on PS5 right now. Dying horribly at the hands of a soulless monster has never looked so good. The 2009 cult classic, Demon's Souls, has been completely remade for the 4K age, and is one of the best-looking games on the new PS5. The motion capture, textures, and audio might all be new, but the hardcore action is utterly faithful to the original, offering the same brutal learning curve and sense of monumental achievement with every victory. From Software's original formula has been respected, but there are some new tweaks too: new items, armor, and weapons to covet, a change to the amount of healing grass you can carry, and new consumable grains that offer buffs as you adventure. While Control was a great game when it launched in 2019, it had some issues with performance on PS4, especially on base models. With the power of the PS5, Control runs amazingly well. The particle physics really pop in 4K, and the performance is silky smooth. The Ultimate Edition comes with both of Control's expansions, which expand on a story that's full of surprises and gripping performances. In Control, you play as Jesse Faden, the new director of the Federal Bureau of Control, a secretive agency that investigates supernatural events. Control's combat is thrilling, with a great mix of standard third-person gunplay and abilities that ooze with style. The story is thought-provoking and, at times, mind-bending. It's also elevated by a foreboding atmosphere and beautiful art style. If you missed out on Control the first time around, you can now play it in its ideal form on PS5. It was a gamble to remake one of the best Resident Evil games of all time, but thankfully the Resident Evil 4 remake is a brilliant success. Capcom manages to retain everything that makes the original so pivotal, but brings it in line with more modern games, both in looks and feel. All the classic claustrophobic combat is there, along with the iconic characters, but it's now one of the best PS5 games too. Taking place a few years after the events of Resident Evil 7, Village sees protagonist Ethan exploring an Eastern European village in hopes of finding his kidnapped daughter, but the village residents are less than welcoming. More action-focused than its predecessor, this sequel is visibly closer to the classic Resident Evil 4 in its moment-to-moment gameplay, but blends this with the survival horror elements that we love about older entries. Factor in a slew of quality-of-life improvements, a roster of memorable characters, a well-paced, gripping story, and superb utilization of in-game audio, and Resident Evil Village is a fantastic horror game. We think it's definitely one of the best examples of how PS5 3D audio can enhance your gaming experience. Yes, I know BG3 already showed up on the PC list, but this is my list and I can do what I want, and I want to talk about the console version of my game of the year, so you will deal with it. I was thrilled to death that BG3 was coming to console, but the initial reality left me a bit cold. Baldur's Gate 3 on the PS5 was clunky and buggy with a massive learning curve to surmount before I was having fun again. I'm happy to say that Larian Studios' commitment to post-launch patches and updates have improved the game's performance such that the experience on PC and PS5 feels seamless. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those once-in-a-decade, epic-shifting games for its level of depth, detail, and sheer size. I've spent 300+ hours in the game and missed whole swathes of content. I don't mean minor side quests here and there, but entire areas completely untouched. If Dungeons & Dragons combat isn't your thing, then Baldur's Gate may try your patience, but what the game offers in terms of storytelling and characters makes all frustrations with combat worth it. These are some of the best performances and writing in a game since ever. It eclipses all its inspirations and forebears. From now on, all extensively narrative RPGs will be compared to Baldur's Gate. It is the platinum standard. Everyone has heard of The Witcher 3 by now. One of the best RPGs of the last generation and the game that firmly cemented CD Projekt Red as one of the world's premier game developers. While critics have heralded the game's visuals, storytelling, and gameplay, the same can hardly be said about The Witcher 3's technical performance. The new complete edition with a bevy of next-gen updates fixes most, if not all, the technical shortcomings. With smooth frame rate, 4K textures, and loads of other fixes, The Witcher 3 on PS5 is the definitive version of one of the best RPGs of all time. Whether Dead Space actually needed a remake or not, there's no denying that it's really good. Developer Motive takes the original design of Dead Space and manages to overhaul it both in visuals and also expanding the story and its characters, which is why it more than deserves a place on this best PS5 games list. Even in the presence of Assassin's Creed Valhalla that came before it, Assassin's Creed Mirage is the best Assassin's Creed game on PS5. Taking the series back to its stealth action roots with a pared-back, streamlined experience, intriguing protagonist, and densely filled city, Mirage is a wonderful blend of older stealth action mechanics and modern tweaks. The game's focus on stealth and patience means you'll be rewarded for deliberating over your every move and murder, and the game gives you some of the best assassinations-cum detective cases in which to get your teeth stuck. Each case is gripping and full of intrigue, building up to a climactic moment with the opportune moment to strike at one of Baghdad's members of the Order of the Ancients arises. Trading in the large open-world settings of games in the series that came before it, Mirage's focused single city and surroundings setting pays off. The city of Baghdad is a superb setting and is brilliantly realized and beautiful, crammed with things to do and discover, and makes for a brilliant playground for parkour. Basim is also one of the most interesting assassins we've had in a few games too, blending some of the best traits of some of the most beloved and underrated protagonists from the series. Assassin's Creed Mirage is the best game from the series you can play on PS5. It's so fantastic to include one of the best co-op games on this list of must-plays on the Xbox Series X. It Takes Two puts you and a friend either online or locally in the shoes of husband and wife duo who have been magically turned into toys by their daughter in an attempt to save their marriage. But that hides the fact that it also continually keeps you on your toes by switching up gameplay mechanics and control schemes with each section of the game. It's brilliant, and easily one of the best puzzle games out there. Hades is a roguelike that could make you fall in love with the genre. Supergiant Games' heralded action game arrived on PS5 this summer, bringing one of the best modern indie games to a new audience of players. In Hades, you play as Zagreus, the god of rebirth. Your goal is to escape from the underworld, but it won't be easy. Played from an isometric perspective, Hades has fast-paced and challenging combat that relies both on nimble fingers and strategic forethought. Between each run through the enemy-laden rooms, Hades' compelling tale filled with interesting gods and goddesses unfolds. With plenty of room for experimentation and a structure that rewards you for sticking with it, Hades is an immensely satisfying action game. Not only is it the best Ratchet & Clank adventure yet, but it is also a powerful demonstration of what the PS5 can do. Dr. Nefarious has been at it again, ripping holes between dimensions. Ratchet & Clank are split up and enlist the help of fellow Lombax, Rivet, to help stitch the universe back together. Flying through time rifts is utterly seamless, with not a loading screen in sight, and the DualSense features are used brilliantly. From its inception, Apex Legends shook up the Battle Royale genre, featuring a handful of unique characters, fast-paced action, and some of the best movement in an FPS still to this day. While Apex Legends has had its ups and downs over the years, especially with issues surrounding its matchmaking, bugs, and expensive cosmetics, its dedication to consistency for content and pro play still makes it one of the best FPS on the PS5. Apex has remained consistent with releases of new maps, characters, weapons, game modes, cosmetics, and balance updates. The PS5 update for Apex Legends improved on it with 4K output, full 60Hz gameplay, HDR, higher resolution shadow maps, and greater LOD distances to bring it closer to the true current-gen experience. And future updates are still planned to take advantage of the adaptive triggers, haptics, add 120Hz gameplay, and other visual improvements, meaning, in theory, it should only get better with time. If you have a few friends and want to play a stellar FPS together without spending money, Apex Legends is the game for you. I'd worry that Legion's Be Anyone approach might turn its characters into the game's loot, valued only for the skill or perk they bring to the team, and robbing us of anyone worth caring about. You might be left with that feeling if you play without the game's permadeath option, which has to be activated at the start of a campaign. It can be later turned off, but not reactivated. I recommend users turn the permadeath option on. It feels like the right way to play. I'm glad I restarted Watch Dogs, Legion's campaign very early in my playthrough, after finding the guards and thugs' oblivious AI triflingly easy to exploit at standard difficulty. Only permadeath and hard difficulty forced me to plan out and solve each level as a puzzle, which should be the enjoyment of a game built around hacking, after all, rather than blunder through an impromptu shooting gallery out of impatience or a bad decision. Experienced gamers, or anyone familiar with how Ubisoft handles the stealth business, should play on these settings. I didn't find any nasty difficulty spikes waiting for me as the story advanced through the Ubisoft formula of taking down a series of bad actors and discovering how they're linked before the big reveal and concluding showdown. Watch Dogs: Legion's story may be templatized, but it benefits considerably from a richly illustrated, believably near-future London, and plot lines that are unafraid to tackle troubling subjects or put a subtle opinion on them. As one of Sony's biggest PS5 exclusives, Returnal is bound to draw in many gamers who maybe haven't played a roguelike before and therefore may find its punishing difficulty, ever-changing levels, and permadeath mechanic to be a real shock to the system. That said, after a few cycles within Returnal's harsh alien world, they may also find it difficult to stop playing. Returnal brings developer Housemarque's signature bullet hell approach to the roguelike genre, which means that you'll never know what to expect when you enter a room, only that you will have to start over again from the beginning when you die. However, thanks to a tantalizing story and immersive gameplay, which take full advantage of PS5 3D audio and the DualSense full range of features, you'll likely keep returning for just one more run. If you want to see what the PS5 is capable of, Returnal is an experience you don't want to miss. It took 3 years, but Cyberpunk 2077 has now crested into the top 10 of our best PS5 games list. CD Projekt Red's epic open-world RPG has transformed in 2023, with the free update 2.0 and the paid for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty DLC completely overhauling the game for the better. It's a stunning game on PS5 and definitely one to experience. No game had a better comeback story last generation than No Man's Sky, the ambitious space exploration sim from Hello Games that originally launched in 2016. Over the past 4+ years, Hello Games has changed the narrative from unfulfilled promises to exceeding expectations. From adding a bevy of new features like base building and space fleet management to introducing entirely new ways to play thanks to multiplayer, No Man's Sky has become a wonderful experience. On PS5, No Man's Sky runs in 4K at 60 frames per second, has more detailed planets, and features better lighting and shadows. For a game that focuses on exploration and discovery, No Man's Sky's visual and technical improvements make it an even worthier voyage across space. If you're on the hunt for an open-world, narrative-driven adventure in your search for the best PS5 game for you, then look no further than Horizon Forbidden West. Developing and expanding on all that was great about Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4, Aloy's next adventure is staggeringly beautiful, gripping, and filled with exciting Rob Dinosaur action. Many will say that it doesn't change a whole lot from Zero Dawn, or break ground that much, but Forbidden West absolutely is one of the best experiences you can get on PS5 right now. And absolutely do not skip the side quests, with some of the best we've played on PS5, or any platform, for that matter, in recent years. The Traveler, the Genshin Impact protagonist, has been stranded in the magical land of Teyvat, searching for their estranged sibling, ever since the open-world game was first released in 2020. Their tale is still in the midst of unfolding, as new updates continually add new map pieces to the puzzle, magical jungles, vast deserts, treacherous mountain peaks, and introduce us to extraordinary new characters who become part of their story. It's a joy to explore and discover each new chapter that arrives. Apologies to our protagonist's lost sibling, but we're glad to savor the journey rather than race to its resolution. The PS5 release of The Ghost of Tsushima is well worth diving into, even if you've played it through on PS4, as there are 4K graphics running at 60 frames per second, wonderful DualSense features, and 3D audio support. The director's cut itself adds the new Iki Island expansion, which is a fantastic new side story set in an entirely fresh location. You'll learn more about hero Jean, meet new friends and foes, and be able to engage with some new side content including adorable critters. Though not a full-blown sequel, this standalone expansion sends Peter Parker on vacation and leaves his young spider apprentice Miles Morales to look after New York. Building on the rock-solid foundations of Insomniac's first game, New York has been gorgeously blanketed with snow, holiday cheer, and next-gen polish. The improvements aren't just cosmetic, however, the eponymous hero has a few more spider powers at his disposal than Peter Parker, and these are cleverly adapted into new gameplay mechanics that, while they don't reinvent the wheel, they put enough of a spin on it to make it feel fresh, sometimes literally, thanks to the DualSense controller. It doesn't feature as robust of a campaign or as many colorful villains as 2018 Spider-Man, but Miles Morales' story has just as much charm and heart as its predecessor, possibly more. Its tagline of "Be Greater" set a high bar, but Miles Morales somersaults over it with ease. And if you're loving Miles Morales but somehow missed out on or want to replay its predecessor, there's no reason not to get the Ultimate Edition and pick up Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered as well. We previously had MSMR as a standalone game on this list because it was such a great port, but considering the breadth of games we want to now highlight on the PS5, and its availability only as a part of Miles' Special Edition, we decided to couple it with our recommendation here. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is the definitive PlayStation superhero experience. Building on the first two games in the saga beautifully, this PS5 blockbuster gives us both Peter and Miles as playable characters and lets us loose once again in New York City. Fans of the series and the superhero are well served with the game's Venom story arc that throws in a few surprises along the way, and as a single-player open-world action game, it doesn't get much more fun than this. From taking on lowly criminals breaking into shops, to scouring the city for the many collectibles and puzzles, and from gliding your way through the skyscrapers and wind tunnels, to exploring all the skills and tools available to Peter and Miles, the action is relentless, and fun is paramount. As a Sony first-party title, you get to enjoy a host of DualSense features too, which make everything from firing web bursts, swinging through the streets, and solving puzzles with different trigger pressures immensely fun and immersive. There's also a host of impressive accessibility features that means more folks than ever can join in the fun of being a fully fledged Spider-Man. Yakuza, Like a Dragon's PS5 version launched months after the game's initial release, but it's every bit as great as the Xbox Series X version. It supports native 4K resolution or 60 frames per second with a slight dip in resolution. Like a Dragon is the most experimental entry in the beloved Sega series. With a charming new protagonist, Ichiban Kasuga, and an inspired turn-based battle system, Yakuza, Like a Dragon takes the series in a whole new direction. Still, it retains all of the endearing quirks that Yakuza is known for, which makes Like a Dragon a great experience for longtime fans and newcomers alike. Along with its incredible mainline story, Like a Dragon has a ton of awesome side content that makes seeing and doing everything in its beautiful world a worthwhile endeavor. It's worth noting that while the PS4 version has a free upgrade to PS5, save data doesn't transfer. Star Wars Jedi: Survivor builds on its predecessor in almost every way, delivering an ambitious Jedi fantasy that's only downfall is occasionally in its pacing. Picking up 5 years after the last game, we rejoin Cal and BD-1 on an adventure that feels more ambitious, confident, and heartfelt than the first. Plus, this is a stunning game, which just heightens its prowess in combat and traversal. Final Fantasy VII Remake / Intergrade was the pipe dream that many fans hoped would happen but didn't believe would see the light of day. Seeing the first chapter of FFVII Remake in crisp HD and fully voice-acted not only made the day for those who tout it as the best in the franchise but also for those who may have missed out in the PS1 era. It's a shining example of how far gaming has come in the 5 generations of PlayStation. The game updated more than its visuals, opting for faster real-time action that rewards skill and preparation while still allowing anyone who wants the traditional turn-based combat a way to choose that option as well. Because you never get to leave Midgar, Square Enix improved and added to the side stories with the other members of Avalanche, your time in Wall Market, and added a few more areas to expand upon the original. The materia system is back and optimized with new materia for the updated gameplay style and introduces new ones to complement it. The intermission expansion puts Yuffie front and center and gives her a chance to shine before the next release. It includes arguably the best and most engaging combat via her elemental ninjutsu, synergy attacks, and other ninja skills. Both the core game and the intermission DLC add to the context of the world and give a sneak peek at what we can expect for the next installment of the FFVII remake and is worth a try for the first time and longtime fans of Final Fantasy games. God of War is one of the most stunning PS4 games, and it is even prettier on PS5. The PS5 update adds a performance mode with 4K resolution that runs at 60 frames per second. God of War is one of the best PlayStation exclusives in a long time already, so it's definitely worth revisiting or playing for the first time on PS5 if you haven't yet. Its sequel, God of War Ragnarok, is a massive expansion of the concept and a continuation of the story. It's just as visually outstanding, while refining the already stellar combat and giving you new tools and RPG-like features to help you make the combat your own. It also continues, and possibly concludes, the apocalyptic story that the first game began, making these two a perfect duology to experience on your PS5. So, did you like the games I recommended? So leave your like, subscribe to the channel to follow me and activate the bell because I post a lot of videos on this channel and you can't miss it. I would like to remind you that in the description we have a list of different products that can make your gaming experience much better. If you want to buy, the link will be in the description. Anyway, thank you very much for following me this far and until next time, bye.